These are verses to kind of kick it off a little bit when it comes to a small discussion. We won't go on too long because it's getting late. About ultimate reality. About the difference between what we call deceptive reality and ultimate reality. Deceptive reality is the world of appearances. And they call it deceptive reality not because the reality itself is deceptive. The reality itself isn't like hiding behind the bush and you see me, I'm deceiving you. They call it deceptive reality because you're deceived by it. You think, when we look at deceptive reality, we are deceived by it because we think it exists in ways that it can't. And then there's ultimate reality, which is how things really exist. How things really exist is also called in the Buddhist text shunyata. Shunyata means emptiness. Shunya, empty. Shunyata, emptiness. Things are empty of being what they seem to be from their side. Okay? They are empty of being what they seem to be out there, independently, objectively, and so forth. They are empty, means they do not exist that way. They are void of existing that way. So, let's check. Let's imagine there's an irritating person. Irritating person in your life. In deceptive reality, we are deceived by an irritating person. How? We think they're out there, we think that they are born to irritate, essentially irritating, right? That they have some kind of objective existence as an irritating person. They are devoid of that. They do not exist that way. Their ultimate reality is that they do not exist the way they appear. Okay? They do not exist the way they appear. And they do appear out there. I mean, even people who have heard the irritating person example many, many times, when the irritating person starts being irritating, you're deceived by it. And chances are you're deceived by it for a long, long time until maybe you go home and go, geez, I wish I hadn't gotten irritated about peanuts, right? Oh, now I remember I was only supposed to get irritated. You know what I mean? So, and then even then we go, oh yeah, I remember that was, but there's always a but. Even people who have heard this kind of rap over and over, there's always a but. What? Yeah, what? But come on. Aren't they? They're really out there. Come on. And we will all have that but until we have what we call the direct perception of emptiness. Until we have a direct, unmediated encounter with the ultimate reality. Like the kind that we were talking about in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where you see ultimate reality directly. And until then, and then you're transformed. You become a different kind of person. And until then, we are constantly deceived by appearances. Constantly. The best we can hope for is having a little bit of intellectual understanding that we have to be deceived. That we are deceived. An intellectual understanding, which isn't the same as, what do you call it, a gut understanding. See, the gut understanding comes only when you've seen it directly. So up until then, it's just like, well, theoretical. It's theoretical at best. But it's good to start getting the theoretical. Because the gut one comes from the theoretical. The gut one comes from thinking over and over and over again. Is it possible for an irritating person to be irritating from their side? Is it possible for things to exist the way they do? Okay? That's irritating person. Let's crank it up a bit, shall we? Is this a permanent thing or an impermanent thing? It's an impermanent thing. Does it look like a permanent thing? Permanent here means just like it's got legs. It's going to last for a while, right? It's going to be there, right? How is it really? Is it a permanent? Impermanent means changing all the time. Is it a changing all the time thing or a thing that's not changing? See, does it look that way? It is empty of permanence. See, ultimate reality is something's not there. Ultimate reality is something's not there. Right? So when we see something there, we're not seeing ultimate reality. We're seeing deceptive reality. When we perceive something is not there, we're perceiving ultimate reality. Okay, got it? So when we're perceiving that perceiving is not intellectual. When we're perceiving that this object is not there as a permanent thing, we are perceiving its ultimate reality. We're perceiving a version of its ultimate reality. Okay? Ready? Should we crank it up more? Would the pen be there if we all left the room? if we all left the church, would there still be a pen on this table? Yes or no? What do we think? No, you know, like, well, what's this? What kind of like trick is this? It's some monk trick. What do you mean? Of course it would be there, right? Come on, I'm speaking your thoughts. Of course it would be there. That's all our thoughts. Of course. What kind of weirdo? What is this like? You know, something on an LSD trip? I mean, what kind of fantasy? Of course it would be there. Okay. The pen does not exist unless the pen is perceived. The pen is empty of existing independently. Means it isn't out there at all. Out there, independently of being perceived. It is empty of having independent existence. It exists dependently it exists dependently. And then you can say there's 3 levels of dependent, the way that things exist dependently. And we'll work our way up, okay? The first level is things exist dependently on their causes and conditions. Causes and conditions. Some causes came into play, and when the causes and conditions came into play, this pen came about. And when the energy of the causes wears out, what will happen to this pen? It will, go into whatever plastic goes to, right? Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and expo plastic low odor dry erase pens to whatever they go to. It won't be a pen anymore, though, right? Right? It's changing. A cause thing is a changing thing. Cause thing is a changing thing. So it depends on its causes, you could say, for it to exist. And that's why it's a changing thing, because it's a cause thing. Okay? So what's the problem with that? Those of you Buddha heads in here. So what's the problem with that? Is that the end of the story?
No.
Things exist dependently on their causes and conditions. Why isn't that the end of the story? Causality isn't happening out there either. See, to say things exist dependently on their causes and conditions means that causes and conditions exist independently, I guess. What's the proof that causes and conditions? Causality means causality. Never mind causing and conditions. Causality, cause and effect. Cause and effect doesn't exist independently out there either. What's the proof of that? All right, you ready? You go warmed up now?
No raw data. There's no point where the raw data is empty.
Well, that's a different argument. What causality? What about causality?
Which happens first?
Good. If causality were happening out there, we should be able to identify which came first, the cause or the effect. So, which came first? Well, could the effect come before the cause? If that would be cuckoo land. To say that they use in the text, they use the sprout and the seed example. Could a sprout exist before the seed? Seed brings the sprout, right? So could a sprout exist before the seed? That would be an effect that existed before the cause. That would be crazy. Could the sprout exist simultaneously with the seed? So could the effect exist at the same time as the cause? See, we're trying to see if causality is happening out there. Okay, let's get straight. If causality is happening out there, apart from our perception of causality, is causality happening out there? If it were happening out there, you should be able to identify which came first, the cause or the effect. So the effect can't come first. How can you have an effect before a cause? That'd be crazy. Could the effect come at the same time as the cause? Why? You couldn't tell which is the cause and which is the effect. If they were simultaneous, in what way would one be the cause and the other be the effect? They were simultaneous. So that can't be. So that only leaves one. And we all knew that was the answer anyway, from the very start. The cause, of course, comes before the effect, right?
No.
Why not? Okay, good. The cause of the sprout can't be the seed until the sprout comes about. Until then, it's a seed. Right? It isn't the cause of a sprout until the effect comes into it. So you could argue as easily that the effect must come before the cause as you could the cause must come before the effect. In other words, it can't be happening out there. Okay? Can't be. No? You just have to take that home and put it in your pipe and smoke it for a while. Okay? Yeah.